Okay, as I said in class, this is literally a combination of the two sentences we just learned, compound and complex. And on page 325 of a writer's reference, it basically says a compound complex sentence contains at least two independent clauses and at least one subordinate clause, also known as a dependent clause. Okay, so the example they give, like I said, had the, it has subordinate clauses that are adjective or noun clauses. So we don't want that. We're not going to use those because those ones, we don't need to worry about the punctuation for those. We do when it is an adverb clause, the one that needs commas. Okay, so example, while I was gone, comma, she wrecked her bike. So there's our complex sentence pattern right there. And then we've got our comma and our fanboys, and he broke his arm. Okay, I hope that makes sense. When we went fishing, comma, my sister caught a trout. There's our complex sentence pattern right there. And my brother caught a largemouth bass. Now, with this particular type where we have, the only rule we need to remember is that we have to have at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent. And then we just punctuate it according to how we choose to arrange it. I discovered in my 12 years of teaching that there's actually 4 ways that you can write this, and I'm going to show you those 4. The first one is where we have an independent clause, the comma and the coordinating conjunction, independent clause, dependent clause. Okay, so Jesus taught us to love one another, and we try to follow this commandment even though it can be difficult. So this second part is our complex sentence pattern, and because we've got just the independent clause and then the independent clause and the dependent clause following it, we don't need a comma in that second place. We just need it between the two independent sentences, the complex and the other sentence. Okay, so we just need it right here. So our next pattern, my computer crashed because the warranty is still in my computer crashed, but because the warranty is still in effect, HP is sending me a new one. So this one is, this pattern or this arrangement is independent clause, coordinating conjunction, dependent clause, independent clause. So independent clause, dependent clause, independent clause. So in this case, the complex sentence pattern has the dependent clause coming first. So we have 2 commas here. So we've got the one between the 2 sentences, and then the one at the end of the independent clause. And that's not too many. Okay, so don't be panicky about that. The next pattern is identical in sound. So it's the same when I say it out loud, but when you see it, you can see that it's arranged a little bit differently. So instead of having the lone independent clause up here, and the complex sentence part down here, we have it first. I like to sleep when I have free time, but I'd rather play games. So we have an independent clause with a dependent clause following it, so we don't need any kind of comma. And then we have but I'd rather play games. We've got our coordinated conjunction, our fanboys, and our comma right there. Oh, and this is something that you should note. I should have noted this at the beginning, but I'm just saying it now. Usually the 2 coordinating conjunctions from the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. The usual coordinating conjunction for this type of sentence is and or the but. Okay, so it's either but or it's and. Sometimes it is or so. It's very rare that I see one where it's for or nor or yet. It's usually and or but. Okay, last pattern is it's the opposite of the first one, where we had 2 independent clauses and then a dependent clause. We're going to start with our dependent clause. While my parents were gone, and so I did all my chores and my sister slept. So we've got 1 comma at the end of this dependent clause and then another comma between our coordinating conjunction, our fanboys, and the second sentence. Now I know what you guys are going to say. Your sister's a jerk. Maybe you'll say that. I don't know. You might be thinking it. Well, she's not. For the sake of this demonstration, I kept this sentence. I took something out. The rule is at least 2 independent clauses and at least one subordinate clause. But that doesn't mean that I can't have a second dependent clause. So the reason that my sister slept is because she was sick. So we've got another dependent clause here, but because it's followed by that independent clause, we do not put a comma there. I could keep going. There's one more thing I could probably add to this. And I wanted to be nice to her, but I probably wouldn't go beyond this. Don't do more than 3 independent clauses and 2 dependent clauses in one sentence. It gets wordy and awkward and creates a totally different run-on sentence. The one we usually think of is the one that goes on and on and on and on. So this one is, while my parents were gone, I did all the chores and my sister slept because she was sick and I wanted to be nice to her. So there's that. Okay, it would be better if I just ended it here. My sister was sick. I wanted to be nice to her and didn't mind doing all the working. Something like that. Maybe I'd compose it as a separate sentence just because it feels better to keep it kind of on the short side. So that's it. That's how you write a compound complex sentence. I know it might have sounded like it was going to be more than that, but it's not. Thanks for staying to the end if you stay to the end. I hope to see some really great compound complex sentences in class. And have a great day.